We just got a bunch more details on this new Witcher 3 expansion. CDPR not only had their Red stream, but also their earnings call this week. This gave us a ton of new info to dive into, including the fact that they have another project coming in 2026. I think there's a realistic chance CDPR is announcing something else next week, and I'll talk about why and even what it might be. But we also have leaks, because as a result of past leaks now coming true, we might know more about songs of the past than most people realize, with even CDPR secretly teasing this one for weeks already. We have a ton to break down in this video, but first and foremost, a huge shout out to Rock and Boris. 11 months ago on their podcast, they said that CDPR was making new content for The Witcher 3 in collaboration with Fool's Theory. And here we are, almost a year later, and they got it spot on. And then CDPR accidentally leaked the expansion themselves. At that point, they just decided to announce it anyway. Because yes, The Witcher 3 is getting a new expansion, and they made it clear we are making a proper big expansion. The scope of this is being described as similar to Blood and Wine, and that's an important distinction. Blood and Wine was The Witcher 3's second expansion. It was not only notably longer than the first, but it also included an entire new region and map. This of course had a brand new main storyline, but also a ton of new side content, including a new player home, but also a bunch of items and new creatures for that map, and even things like the mutation system, which becomes a fundamental late game system. That's to say, if Songs of the Past is similar in scope to Blood and Wine, this should go beyond just 10 hours of new questing. A ton of content and possibly even gameplay systems could be included here as well. And that makes sense. This project has been underway for years already, and during the earnings call, CDPR said 190 developers are currently working on this. That is a very large team for an expansion especially, and that means it's going to cost money. With CDPR's DLCs, if it's a DLC, it's free. If it's an expansion, it has a price tag on it. They haven't revealed pricing yet, but one of the lines that definitely made me hopeful around all of this is, we are well aware that stepping back into such a beloved universe comes with high expectations and a great deal of responsibility. That's why we're working hard to deliver to players an authentic and memorable experience. This project is largely being made by Fool's Theory, but CDPR has creative oversight, and even some of their own devs are on it. Phantom Liberty was a fantastic expansion, and CDPR seems to be going into this one with similar motives, to really offer a good value so people who are returning to the game feel like it's worth it. And this does seem to be an instance where they're internalizing some of the lessons from Cyberpunk 2077. During the earnings call, we heard that at one point Songs of the Past was planned as a 2026 release. They alluded to the fact that they might be able to hit this executive profit incentive during past earnings calls, and Songs of the Past would have massively helped out with that. But not only did they delay the expansion into 2027, but as of right now, it technically doesn't even have a release date. To me, this really says CDPR is letting this one get the time it needs and actually release when it's ready. But thankfully, that release shouldn't be too far away anyway. CDPR themselves said this is at an advanced stage of production and is coming relatively soon. There's going to be more details shared at Gamescom, which is going to be in late August. They confirmed Songs of the Past is going to be on the show floor, and if it's similar to Cyberpunk, which they kind of allude to during the earnings call, what I suspect is attendees will basically sit in a theater and watch somebody else play in real time, but it does give you a very real look at whatever game they have at that point. And I'm going to be there. I already booked Gamescom for this year, and I'll be definitely making a video of whatever gets shown here. But all of that is to say, this feels like an early 2027 release. Like in the first 3 months of 2027 feels very possible. But as CDPR themselves said, even they don't know yet. So the precise release date likely depends on when the game is actually ready, which is fantastic to hear, and I bet we find out more in August. I imagine at Gamescom we start to get some of the details about the content and get an actual release date, but they're definitely giving us some clues ahead of time. While CDPR did accidentally leak things, they also intentionally did. The new Songs of the Past art reveals a few things. Geralt will be here. The Witcher 4 is focusing on Ciri's storyline, but this expansion will be from Geralt's perspective, and this new sword might suggest that Ciri's even more involved. Here of course we could see 3 swords, this one being completely new. This doesn't appear in the game so far, but interestingly, we have seen the scabbard before, or at least one that looks very similar to it. The scabbard overall looks pretty similar to the existing ones in The Witcher 3, but it's not a perfect match to any of them. Ciri's has clear color differences, at least in The Witcher 3. If you look over to The Witcher 4, the Songs of the Past scabbard looks nearly identical to what we could see Ciri using 4. Of course, this doesn't appear in The Witcher 3 at all, or at least it hasn't yet. Beyond that, of course, we have this wooded creature. It almost looks like they're wearing a crown, and overall it looks like they're being held back from attacking, almost like we're being chased by something. But the pretty wild part is, CDPR was teasing all of this ahead of time. Just a week before the the reveal on May 20th, they posted this last dance video of Witcher 3 combat. Is that not the new sword being used throughout the entire thing? I tried to take a few stills to get a better look, but wasn't able to match it up perfectly to any of the existing swords in game. The designs are similar, but often the colors would be a bit off. But the far more notable post is a month ago on April 30th, CDPR posted a picture celebrating Bella 10, this being an in-universe holiday. This is a totally new piece of art, and that is the exact same sword and scabbard off to the side. Because in reality, this image and poem might all be a big tease for the DLC, as even more secrets are hidden within. CDPR literally confirmed as much during the Red stream. We could see the creature hand here, this likely being the same exact wooded creature in the announcement art, and it almost looks like this image could be chronologically a bit before, as this monster is just stalking this group through a forest, and this dancing in the forest around a bonfire image almost feels like a continuation into this scene, like the fire and embers are connected. And of course, the other notable detail here is Dandelion playing along as people seemingly dance to his songs, maybe some songs about the past. During the Red stream, it was further confirmed that Gwent would be getting some new cards in the expansion, and they even shared a snippet of music from the new soundtrack, and this does feel revealing. To me, the music is foreboding. It gives me Rainy City or almost House of the Dragon vibes, which might be spot on. Back in December of last year, Polish creator and journalist grach backed up the DLC leak and said this would be taking us to a new location, and the story would act as a bridge between The Witcher 3 and The Witcher 4. All of that, of course, being a fairly safe bet, but in February of this year, we got a much more specific detail, as grach alluded to the fact that they heard that this new expansion was being set in Sedaris, which has quite a few potential connections to this image. Sedaris is a city and a kingdom on the west coast. The city is a port town with a focus on trade and has plenty of wealth, which definitely could match up with that music. Dandelion was born in Grach, which is just southeast of Sedaris. And even this new sword isn't totally new. It seems to be borrowing design elements from existing elven swords you could find in-game. Sedaris is built atop elven ruins. So of course, an important disclaimer is a lot of this information, a lot of these connections are being drawn backwards. Sedaris was in past leaks, so now people are trying to figure out how it could be relevant to this image. But they are valid clues. All of these are genuine connections. It's not like there's many details here. And the overall image is of course celebrating Bella 10, which is from the night of April 30th into May 1st. This is both Ciri and Yennefer's birthday in-game. That feels like it has to be relevant somehow. CDPR already confirmed during the Red stream that this sword is somehow related to the songs of the past story, and I suspect this will connect things to Ciri's next chapter. Even on their website for this expansion, CDPR relates this adventure to the new path Ciri embarks on in The Witcher 4. I have a feeling there's going to be some literal story connections happening here, and it all seems relevant to this sword and scabbard, and perhaps its elven origins in Sedaris. And part of why CDPR is doing all of this is for The Witcher 4. Whether it be directly or indirectly, this new expansion will help sales of The Witcher 4, but how far away is that game? During the earnings call, they were asked this exact question. Could we still be getting The Witcher 4 in 2027, as many people were hopeful for, even if the new expansion is also dropping in 2027? CDPR refused to give a concrete answer. That's how we found out the expansion doesn't have an exact release date, but based off their answers here, it doesn't seem absolutely impossible. They do mention how The Witcher 4 is at an advanced stage, so to me, May 2028 seems like the most probable release date for that one, but if Songs of the Past is truly a Q1 release, if it actually comes out in, let's say, January or February, maybe The Witcher 4 could drop in Q4. Maybe they could follow up the Cyberpunk release date in December. Although again, that would be pretty crazy, and I would say May 2028 seems more and more likely for The Witcher 4. Although one thing we probably aren't getting is expansions. During the earnings call, CDPR said quite concretely, it would be difficult for us to add in expansions to the upcoming trilogy. This is where we are right now with this particular issue. CDPR plans to drop 3 Witcher games in 6 years, but make it clear how those plans right now at least don't include expansions, mostly because they don't see a way to achieve that. They just don't seem to have the manpower to release 3 games in 6 years and also expansions for those games, which might explain their recent investment into the modding scene. Right now, Bethesda is successfully monetizing mods on a much larger scale with DLC-sized mods. They've been even posting several on their own YouTube channel, and people are making serious money by releasing these. Not saying that CDPR wants to get into the paid mod scene, but at the very least, larger DLC-sized mods could act as a really nice holdover in place of expansions if CDPR has no plans to actually do that. Even with 3 games in 6 years, that's still several year gaps in between games, and if anything, you have to imagine the modding scene would carry over really well from one game to another, as the engine would stay relatively similar. And yeah, CDPR is still adding Witcher 3 mods to console. They confirm it's coming at some point in 2026, but we don't get any other updates. But what was honestly the craziest part of the recent earnings call are the other 2 things. The Witcher 3 expansion has almost been an open secret, and part of this is CDPR's own teases during their own earnings calls. And a lot of this has been coming around this profit incentive. CDPR has to make a certain amount of profit in these 4 years, and if they do, the executives get a bonus. But for the current profit incentive ending this year, they're well behind schedule, but keep saying, hey, we might be able to do this, even though it seems ambitious. But everyone's like, well, if you're gonna make this much money, you have to have some kind of big release on the horizon. That's how we get some of those expansion rumors. But now that the expansion is revealed, we know Songs of the Past isn't coming out until 2027. So how on earth are they going to make a bunch of profit in 2026? The shocking answer is CDPR revealed they have both a gaming and a non-gaming project at an advanced stage of development, and coupling those with other initiatives, they think they might still be able to hit this profit incentive. In other words, CDPR is explicitly confirming they have more content coming this year, being totally separate from that expansion. And if anything, it sounds like this is one piece of gaming content coming this year, but then separately another piece of non-gaming content also coming this year. And while we don't know exactly what this is, we definitely know what it's not. It's definitely not Edge Runners 2, it's not the new Scopely mobile game, it's not the Cyberpunk 2077 live-action project, and it's not any of these other announced games. They've already said in past earnings calls these aren't included in these projects. I would just have to guess that it's something for Cyberpunk 2077, but what could this possibly be? Of course, we had all sorts of DLC leaks in the past, but CDPR said explicitly that they have no plans for additional DLC or expansions for Cyberpunk 2077. While additional things like mod tools or further updates for the game would be awesome, this company needs to make a bunch of additional profit. I don't see how that would help with profit. In the past, CDPR had very ambitious Cyberpunk 2077 multiplayer aspirations, and even more recently, we've seen them hiring for multiplayer people around Cyberpunk 2. It seems like this is still in their future plans. I think it would be absolutely wild for multiplayer to finally come to this game, but who knows, it certainly could happen. And I wouldn't be shocked if this week at one of the summer showcases, likely Summer Games Fest, we might be learning more. We likely are about to get another shocking reveal from CD Projekt Red, and I honestly wouldn't be shocked if we also get a new Witcher 4 trailer. I don't think we're going to be getting an exact release date, but perhaps some kind of release year, since we do know when Songs of the Past is coming out, and the Witcher 4 getting more marketing makes sense. I imagine they want to piggyback off of all of this additional Witcher 3 hype right now. People are into The Witcher, and that means they're into The Witcher 4. With that said though, we're likely finding out a bunch more relatively soon, so get subscribed for all of that.